we have a saying in our business: if you're not testing, you're guessing. And once I fix a problem that nobody else could fix, and I don't know, it's fulfilling to say the least.
I used to get shirts made up with that saying for all of my events when I would bring people in because, I'm trying to get them to use a blower door. It's like, for heaven's sakes, take a look at what you're doing here.
This is the one and only, the original podcast where you can find yours and your business's true value. You're listening to Our Value.
Brought to you by America's insulation source, IDI Distributors.
You want to hear from the best contractors, suppliers, and consultants that dedicate themselves to more than just survival in the business world?
Industry professionals that are dedicated to excellence in every aspect of their business.
Our Value has them all here to share that same motivation and knowledge with you. Tune in and grow a more successful, profitable, educated, and recognized business. Listen to the Our Value podcast to become the industry leader in your market. Find your value with Our Value.
Welcome to today's Our Value podcast, folks. We are going to do something different today. I want to talk to you today about bidding, your bids, your takeoffs, maybe some possible help for your takeoffs, but I brought in some heavy guns for this. In fact, I'm talking to Shad Wall, and he has a company that actually goes out and does bids for some of the largest contractors in the United States. How are you doing today, Shad?
Doing awesome, man. It's a great day to be a great day.
Just to give a little background on you and your company, when did you actually get into foam? What took you out of normal life and put you into this?
It's been a minute ago, but I started back in 1997. A really good friend of mine decided he wanted to go to Alaska. And I grew up in a small country town in Louisiana, probably I think population around 20, counting the dogs and the cats there in the local area. And he wanted to drive to Alaska. And at that point, I truthfully did not know you could drive to Alaska, to be honest with you. And we did. We took off in his little Isuzu pickup, drove to Alaska, and drove across Canada up the Alcan. And he had already had some mutual friends up there. And before we knew it, they asked us if we wanted to go to work doing insulation, and we just a month later, they were sending me all over Alaska, Fairbanks, Kodiak, doing insulation. And my family grew up in the building business. My dad was a contractor, handyman, and so I kind of knew my way around the building, the envelope, the framing packages, and all those things. But it always intrigued me how the insulation side worked with as far as the building envelope and how that worked together with the ventilation side, and had a great experience to be able to learn a lot of stuff as a young man up there. So,
And when did you first get on a spray foam rig up there?
that was actually that would have been 1998, the summer. I went back up there and they had a project. I went to work for the same fella, and they sent me to an island called Kodiak, Alaska. And they were doing spray foam down in the basement when we were working on the actual walls up in the in the first and second floor in the roof decking. And I went down in the basement and I saw these guys spraying this stuff. And when I looked at it, it was a liquid that was going in and swelling up and just instantly turned hard. And I thought that was the coolest stuff ever. And from that point, I actually once I came back into town, I found a school up in Mississauga, Canada, and started finding various other places to learn about this product. And once I learned about it, I brought it back to the States because I knew if it worked in that extreme, it had to work in the other extreme. I just had to figure out how that would work together, in our part of the country. And I did. I started learning a lot and going to as many schools as things that I could find, certifications. And I started my own business there in 1998, or 1999, actually. So,
Wow, that's incredible. And, to this day, now you're helping fix buildings that other people have jumped into that didn't really understand the building envelope. And I guess when we're done with this, you've got some expert witnessing stuff to do. Is that correct?
yeah, I'll go straight from here into depositions for a court case. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So on the other side, what got you into helping people with their bids? I know a lot of times we would ask, all of our customers back in the Demilag days, "Hey, can you help this guy out?" But what really got you into doing the bids for everybody?
Yeah, Dimilag. That's the name that I haven't heard in a minute. But yeah, that's ultimately when I was in one of our offices. Again, going back, we kind of grew this company. We were mostly focused around new construction. I went into one of our offices one day and I saw all my sales guys sitting in an office, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, because I'm always looking for ways to be lean and just to be able to trim the fat off the business model, just because margins have gotten, had gotten real tight. And so once I looked at my sales guys going, why are they sitting in here doing something, one, they're not good at, two, they don't want to be doing. I hired them to be relationship builders, not mathematicians. And I'm sitting here going, there has to be a better way. And sure enough, my wife is originally from Nicaragua, which is down, if you guys don't know where that is, it's close to Costa Rica. It's a neighboring country to Costa Rica. And so I was down there visiting her family one time. And one of her very good friends was a super skilled architect, engineer, had a master's, and we had dinner with him one night. And he was talking about the unemployment rate down there was so high. There were so many talented, educated people that were skilled, spoke English, spoke Spanish. I mean, obviously, but I started chatting with him, and before I knew it, we came up with, hey, would you like to do takeoffs just for our company? Because I feel like you're going to be a lot better at it than my sales guy. And so we started doing that just for one of our offices. And before I knew it, our efficiency rate went through the window. I mean, through the roof. And once I saw that, how we could close more jobs and allow those guys to get out there and build relationships, which is what I hired them to do, then I saw that there may be, this may be a business model that could potentially go, for other companies. And then I allowed it to run into our other offices. And then eventually I got all of our sales guys. Nobody did their takeoffs. It was what we, the kind of the joint between there is I wanted them to not have to do the takeoffs, but I wanted to still be for them to be intimate with the project. That was a challenge because I'd hired on a few more architects and engineers, and it allowed them. I had to figure out a way to kind of connect the dots so that my sales guys could understand what the takeoff was so that they could speak intelligently to the GC or the architect or the homeowner. And so we kind of put our heads together and said, hey, let's come up with shop drawings. Shop drawings have been used in the commercial industry for years. So how do we translate into words with colors and pictures? And sure enough, man, we started using the plans. Let's use what we already have. Let's color code. Let's put some things in place. And before I knew it, we came up with what we call an installation construction drawing, an ICD. And we started sending those out to all of our sales guys. And we said, hey, guys, let's see if we can help close projects just with, with a color coded drawing. Maybe it's a better way of communication. Make sure you get it in the customer's hands. Maybe it'll set us apart from other people, from other trades. And before we knew it, it started taking off. The customers really felt, customers really love to see anything with their name on the top of it that's a professional looking document. People just, it's part of human nature. We like it's nice looking, it's professional. We started brand labeling those drawings. And sure enough, this was giving us, in a lot of cases, it would give us last look at the project because the customer really felt when you turn in a document like that, that it's not just some, the old pink, yellow, and white copies from, from the invoice slips. It allowed us to really set ourselves apart and allowed us to start closing more projects. And then it grew into actually where some of my competitors started getting these takeoffs, started getting these ICDs. And then it grew to what it is today. I know I say this because we've talked about this a lot. I think me and you have, and a lot of the customers, but I've literally never spent $1 in 10 years. I've never spent $1 on marketing ever. It's because it grew so fast because of just, I guess, the necessity and the need for a solid takeoff, which is kind of the foundation for the whole company. If you don't have a good takeoff, anything else behind that is not going to be good at all.
So what got you into bidding the large projects? Just necessity or from, growing the company or a goal to do bigger?
Once we would do takeoffs for, let's say, homeowners, and some of these guys were commercial builders, like commercial GCs and such. One of the GCs called me one day and he said, hey, do you do any takeoffs for commercial stuff? And I said, well, right now we, like small commercial stuff we will, but nothing big really. And he said, well, hey, let me throw some projects at you. I want to see what with these shop drawings. I think he said, Chad, what I'm really struggling with right now is I've got a bunch of subcontractors that I'm so afraid to turn in numbers with stuff because some of these plans will be a couple hundred pages. And he said, I'm just nervous that when I turn my number in, I'm going to go off of numbers that are not right. He said, so I want you to start bidding my projects for my subcontractors. And I thought it was a different, for me, it was different. And I said, but hey, I get it. And so he started sharing with some of his GC buddies. And from there, a lot of my customers that started, like I told you before, started getting our takeoffs. They already did commercial projects. And it kind of blossomed from there off of that one GC that said, hey, I feel uncomfortable, but I know when I get a takeoff with yours, I know that I can get them to bid numbers correctly for my projects so that I don't feel, I don't lose my tail in a project. So
How many takeoffs do you think you guys have done over the years?
it's crazy. I think me and you were talking about, probably a month or 2 months ago about this. And so I started calculating up. I went back through because we keep all of our stuff, documentation pretty heavily. But I believe in or actually at the end of December, we'll be really close to we'll be clicking on 100 million square feet of projects over the last 10 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah, it was.
fantastic.
You got me thinking the other day, and I said, man, I gotta look into this because that might be a pretty important number. And sure enough, yeah, we're somewhere, yeah, just south of 100 million square foot of takeoffs done over there, whether it be commercial, industrial, residential, and such.
Now, do you still enjoy contracting?
I do. I enjoy the challenge. Like I said earlier, I got away from mostly new construction, so a lot of my work now is completely envelope failures, ventilation, whatever it may be. That side of the contracting, I've kind of always enjoyed. It's nice to be able to go into a house and people they don't mind spending money on problems because obviously they're problems. They're a pain point. And I think that's the one thing that I enjoy probably as much is because I know that these people are willing, they want to fix the issue where it's not just, yeah, who's the cheapest price around here. And so, yes, I do enjoy contracting still, but I enjoy fixing issues. I love walking out of a place that no other person could fix the problem. And through testing, because we have a saying in our business, if you're not testing, you're guessing. And once I fix a problem that nobody else could fix, and I don't know, it's fulfilling to say the least. So
I love that. I used to get shirts made up with that saying for all of my events when I would bring people in because I'm trying to get them to use a blower door. It's like for heaven's sakes, take a look at what you're doing here. When you look at takeoffs, what do you think or what would you say are your top three tips for somebody doing takeoffs themselves?
the first thing I would say is look and see if it's really viable for you to do. And this is purely not promoting our company, but look and see if it's actually viable for you to do it because what ends up happening, you have to pay for the programs, you still have to pay the maintenance fees. Somebody's tail's still got to be sitting in that seat doing the takeoff. Then you've got vacation, taxes, and all those things. One, look at it and see if it's really a viable option for you to do it or to use a service like ours or somebody else, another service. But I would say the top three tips that people typically miss are in the roof lines. They think that you can go in and just use a pitch factor. And with these roofs nowadays that are so cut up, I have seen on average anywhere from 10 as much as 18% when they go in and try to use those pitches and they don't calculate some of the dormers, the valleys, the hidden gables, hidden roofs. Like there's a lot of things involved inside of a takeoff that you can't just throw a pitch factor on there and get close to the takeoff. So that would be the first one. Be the roof. The walls are pretty straightforward. Cold floors you would miss a lot, like your overhangs, such as bonus rooms above the garages or second floors that extend out over unconditioned area. And then the third thing would be the hot walls, those walls that are blocking off porches, patios. Those things are really hard to kind of dial in unless you have a program that can really see it in 3D to get that exact wall footage. But those would be the three things I would say that are most of the time missed. Commercial plans. I mean, we could get into a whole podcast by itself of what people miss in commercial stuff because of lack of just not knowing how to read the drawings,
I had to really take a step back one time. I was with, one of the two big behemoths out there. And my mentor at the time said, I want you to go into the pre-bid. And if you see more than 5 insulators' names in the pre-bid meeting book, leave. And I said, why? He said, because the person that missed the second most is who gets the job. Person that missed the most, they'll throw out, and the person that missed the second most gets the job. And I just that really sat home with me. It really opened my eyes as to how often on these big projects they wind up crossways with each other because there
Yep.
was never enough money in the job.
There is a unique shift, I would say, across the industry in what you're talking about there. For years and years, yes, it was the cheapest or the next to the cheapest guy. I think what's going on and what we're seeing, and we deal with, I think we've got a little over 860 customers across the US and Canada. What I'm finding, because I have a lot of conversations with architects, engineers, GCs, that some of these guys don't know how to have that kind of conversation. And so they put us on the phone and say, hey, this is our estimating department. Let's get together and figure these out. What I'm seeing is these guys have been bitten enough times by the spray foam or insulation bug. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about, that they they've seen spray foam in a project and some spray foamer bid this and he missed a bunch of stuff. And I think in the industry, they're now finding and going, hey, let's figure out ways such as, shop drawings, make sure that we have people that understand and know what's going on, because spray foam is one of those things. It's very sneaky inside of because architects are not super familiar with it. Even the hatches, and what I mean by hatch, do you know what I mean by hatch? The color coding that they use on the actual product itself. Fiberglass has a squiggly line. It's always been
Yes.
for 100 years. Spray foam's new and they don't know what hatch to use. And the hatch is different across the country depending on who you talk to. Like I said before, there's a shift that these commercial guys are starting to go, hey guys, we can't just take the cheapest on some of this because this is going to bite us. And I think that's where making a lot of subcontractors create shop drawings, it's actually happening more times than not right now. So
I've seen it even where one architect was using little dots that if you blew it up, they were actually little open circles to try
yeah.
and make it look like foam to distinguish it from the R38 bats.
Yeah, I have a funny name for architects. I call them the copy and paste kings because that's ultimately what they're doing in a lot of specs. I have out of 10 drawings a day or 10 drawings, whatever we get, nine of them, the spray foamer or the installation contractor or the drywaller, they go, hey, this one's got spray foam. Okay, where'd you find it? It's in the specs. They copied and pasted the specs. I go, yeah, just because it's in the specs doesn't mean it's in the drawings. He goes, well, what do you mean? I go, that is just an overall blanket that they throw on pretty much most projects. And I said, let us look in the details, the wall sections, any of the cut sections, and let's see if it really is in the plans. And a lot of times we find that it's not, even though it's clearly spelled out in the specification. So,
Yeah, I've seen specifiers where I met one specifier that was working for 70 architects. So they're kind of doing, in a sense what you're doing, where I've got this team of architects, none of them have time to specify. They're just doing their take or their CADs and sending
mhm.
those out, and someone else does the specifications for it. So you're right. There's a lot of copy and paste in that.
It's it's really unique. Most of the time, what I find out when we're answering our whether because we work for drywallers, installation contractors, air barriers, we work for a lot of different people, and oftentimes I find that we know more about the project than the GC, which is very strange in some of these situations because we'll go in and the GC will literally tell you, oh, no, there's spray foam. Here it is. And I go, and I have to screenshot because my guys are really good. We can tell a story. Screenshots are awesome in computers because you can basically tell the story look tick by tick. And we go, no, sir, there's not. And if there's a discrepancy, you're finding one thing that says it, whether it be the specifications, here's all your details showing you that it's not in the project. And they're just like, oh my goodness, man. So oftentimes we find that we know more because of the way my process is set up. I mean, we get pretty intimate with the project very quickly, and then we're able to produce that, the ICD, the drawings, so that that customer can look through there and they feel very comfortable that within a couple of minutes they didn't have to read through 200 pages. They read through about 3 or 4 pages, and they feel like they are brought up to speed on the project. So,
I like that. So
yeah.
because of your intimacy with this and I guess your depth of projects that you've done, how often do you wind up coaching the companies you're doing takeoffs for?
Again, truthfully, I would say 99% of my conversations each and every day And I do stay on the phone a lot because my wife's always riding me about it, wherever we are. 99% of the talks that I have or what we're talking about has nothing to do with takeoffs. Maybe 30, maybe 15 to 20 minutes a day, I'm talking about takeoffs, because a lot of our customers, once they get involved in doing a few of them, they understand the roadmap and then they'll call me and go, "Hey, Shad, what do you think about this?" Or how do you guys do, labor? How do you look at it this way? How do you do insurance? And a lot of it becomes more of a coaching than it does actually talking about takeoffs. But I love that, man. I love to make people or to at least help people get better because I feel like in our industry, how do you say this? There's you've got firemen, you've got all different walks of backgrounds of life that are getting into our industry. And I want them to be successful. I want to go out there. I don't want to have to be the guy to come after they already messed up the project. I'd rather show them before and go, "Hey, let's make this," because what happens is ultimately when you do that is spray foam gets a bad rap, as it does now because of a lot of the of spray foam manufacturers that will literally sell to anybody with a credit card most of the time. And I kind of want to change the perspective of us being more of like an electrician, that trade, because right now we're just the insulators, the lowly insulators that are coming there. But I want to try to raise the bar and get us to be more of guys that understand how to operate a business effectively, how to, take care of their labor side, because that in and of itself that's a challenge by itself, to keep good hands, to guide them, to train them, to give them, more education as far as what they're doing inside of our business. I just want us to be better overall as a company, as a industry. So
I
that's
agree
why I do that.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I want to go back to something you said though that really weighs on everybody's minds. When you get in, you're always looking for how you're going to survive. And with all that you've done in commercial, especially, how often do you see any more? Because you alluded to this before. How often do you really believe you see their top criteria as going for the lowest or second lowest price? What percentage are you seeing that really are not that today?
I would say it's probably 15 years ago, a lot of them went for the lowest, or like you said, the next up from the lowest. Now, I believe it's more of a vetting process than it is anything. I think I can speak intelligent on one project that I'm thinking about just from a couple of weeks ago. I think they're more times than not going in and vetting the middle of the field. They're not going for the lowest. Obviously, the highest guys, sometimes when they throw those big numbers out there, that's because they're so busy and they don't need the work. So,
Mhm.
but I find it a process of them taking two or three in the middle and actually vetting them. They'll call them back. "Hey, what are you doing about this? What are we seeing here?" More times than not, I think that's what's going on now. It's not just picking a flat number. Does that make sense? It's more of a vetting inside that middle tier of people, which is good. It's good for our industry because it allows for it's not so much the cheapest guy. So,
It
but I'd say
does.
percentage wise, I'd probably say I think I'm seeing probably 40 to 50% of the commercial stuff more to that vetting process than anything.
I am so glad you said that because I agree. The calls that I've been on lately with some of, the big contractors and their customers, they're asking me building science questions, but the truth is they're vetting the contractor, or I wouldn't even be on the call.
That's right.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
They want to see what you know and how. I think one of the unique things that allow us, some of my contractors, to kind of win the jobs are once we kind of identify the discrepancies. Because in drawings, there's always going to be discrepancies. It doesn't matter. Some of these things can be 100 to 200 pages long, right? They love it when we send that screenshot thing of going, "Hey, your details say this, but in this section or this grid line, here's the problem. These things are not matching up. And so therefore, what material are you wanting us to use in this?" And they look at it going, "Oh, wow, those guys just saved me a lot of hassle," because if everybody else bids it incorrectly, and we find that happens probably 6 out of 10 projects that we have commercial, we'll send that email going, "Hey, we did the takeoff. Here's some things that we saw discrepancies in. Notify the GC, get an RFI set up, and actually find out what they're wanting." And more times than not, I see that contractor goes, "Wow, okay, I know these guys. I know that I'm going in with sure numbers with these guys." So yeah.
We were looking at the drawings on I'll just say a major hotel brand convention center slash hotel.
Yeah.
And the drawings called for a thermal form foam board in the grand ballroom above a drop ceiling. And I about had a cow. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We can't do this. This is like, the great white, pyrotechnics fire all over again. I said, this is so illegal. And they got the architect on the phone. And what was funny was these guys were out of Jersey. They had that Jersey accent, and there's a lot of drama in the way you talk when you're from there. And they got the architect on the phone and they're like, people are gonna die. And what I found funny was the architect so fell in love with them and the fact that they had found this that they wound up with the job. That was it.
Yeah.
They'd become, fast friends, I guess is the word for it.
Definitely puts you at the top of the pile when you identify something like that that's gonna really cause issues down the project.
So, what other tips do you have on winning the jobs? I mean, when you coach your people, you're not just having them send the bid. Do you have them create a packet? What are your
Mhm.
tips on turning it in?
Yeah, I started something a long time ago. Our sales guys started because the customer, what's the first thing they want when they're turning, if they sent you the plans or you came out and did the project, they're antsy to get that price, right? That's what they want.
Mhm.
So they're naturally going to catch that email as soon as you send it, and they're going to open it up. So I said, hey, sales guys, let's send our packet. Let's send the drawing, the actual color coded drawing. Do not send the proposal in that first email. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, just trust me and try it. So a lot of our customers now, even to this day, will send that ICD in the first email, and that customer opens it up and they're going to look through it, right? They're going to scroll down going, ooh, okay, here's a picture of my house that I'm building or my project. Here's color. Oh, my name. And they start looking through there and seeing all the work that went into creating that thing. And they're going, oh, wow, this is pretty nice. So guess what they usually do? They'll usually call you and go, hey, I got the drawing. And oh, okay, cool. Did you have time to look over that? Because that's a way that shows you and for us to go through this project, make sure that we got everything that you wanted inside the scope of work. Yeah, this is really nice. Yeah, we do that first just before we send out the pricing because that right there gives you one more touch. In the sales cycle, one more touch is so key, so important because that's one more time that your name was on their lips or whatever it was that they in their mind they're going, okay, this was a really professional document. I got to talk to them again. It just gives you another way to connect. And then we send the actual proposal out. So we actually send most of my customers will set up the ICD, kind of a little email packet to send to them. And then when they open it up, then they actually send the takeoff. The actual proposal itself is the next one that comes through their email. So it's just a little trick.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. So, for our IDI customers, what's the best way for them to get to know you? I mean, is there a way they can just try the service out and see what they think, or, call
Yeah.
you and get some information?
Yeah. If they can email me at Shad, SHAD at ICDZ.co. And if they put in the top of the email straight in the subject line, if they put IDI freebie, FREEBE, they'll put that in there. Then they'll get their first one for free and they can actually take a test drive with the service and see if we can try to partner up and to win some projects.
Well, guys, I don't know a better offer than
Yeah.
free. It's my favorite price, Shad. It really is.
I completely understand. I think what I always tell people, Ken, is send me a project that you're working on or you're about to do next week or you just did the week before, one that you're involved in. It's fresh on your mind and test us. See how good we are at what we do. Because I really believe we're going to be able to find enough to offset the cost of what we do easily inside of there. I mean, heck, some of our takeoffs for residential run $75 a plan, and that's cheaper than a take of gas at the time. So save yourself some time and just trust us, man. Partner up with us.
Well, Shad, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your wisdom. And guys, feel free to reach out. He loves to talk. He's a good resource. He's done this a long time. So many of us, we rely on the people that we're surrounded by, but there's resources out there, and Shad is definitely one of them. Shad, thank you for doing this today.
Oh, no worries, Ken. And if you want to post on my mobile number as well, they're more than happy to call that if they can. 318-464-6886.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you have more questions on bidding, takeoffs, on ICDs, or any of the products that IDI carries, reach out to your local branch, reach out to any of us at IDI, where we look forward to earning your business every day.